Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio from Boise, Idaho. This is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives, and check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/greatdetectives. If you are enjoying this podcast, please follow us using your favorite podcast software. Well, today is our 4,200th episode special, and today we're bringing you an episode of Stars in the Air. During the last season of Screen Guild Theater, the series was effectively cut into 3 different programs adapting films to radio. You had a series called Screen Guild Theater. You also had a series called Hollywood Soundstage, and we played an episode of that for Cole Northside 777. And then you have this series, Stars in the Air. And we're dealing with a film, in this case, that had been quite a few years since its release date. And it didn't feature the original star, Lloyd Nolan. However, the substitute I think you'll find quite pleasing in Humphrey Bogart. This is fun because usually when we're talking about Bogart in this type of substitution, it's a case where Bogart wasn't available. Now, I will note that the sound quality does have some issues, so please bear with it, but I think it'll definitely be worth listening to. The original air date is May the 3rd, 1952, and the title is The House on 92nd Street.
It's Brasselle, and this is Hugh Douglas saying, welcome to Stars in the Air. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to another 30 minutes of transcribed adventure. A most extraordinary story tonight. One that would be hard to believe if it weren't documented by fact. Stars in the Air is proud to bring you 20th Century Fox Studios' great box office hit, The House on 92nd Street, starring Keefe Brasselle in the role of Bill, and this year's Academy Award winner, Humphrey Bogart, as Inspector Briggs. In all the crowded secret files of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, no record is more amazing or spectacular than the case of Process 97. Now at last the story can be told. And here is the only man who can tell it, Inspector George A. Briggs of the FBI.
The case of Process 97 began for us in the FBI on the 13th of May, 1941. And strangely enough, it began with an accident. Look out! An accident and one other thing. A pair of pointed patent leather shoes. May 13th, 1941. That afternoon, while crossing a busy New York street, a man had been hit by a taxicab. He was badly injured, and afterward, in the ambulance, with the intern and the traffic policeman.
What do you think, Doc? Has he got a chance?
Not much.
You think maybe he'll...
Wait a minute. He's trying to talk. Listen. Hey, Joe, slow down. He's through. I wonder who he was.
Well, there might be some identification on him. Yeah, here's something. Spanish passport. Francisco Alvarez. Notebook, too. Say, Doc, this stuff is all in German.
Let's see. Stuff about ships, I think. And Brandkerngeschoss. That means incendiary bullet.
It does? Hey, what kind of stuff is that for a guy to be carrying around? with a war on.
Yeah. Does seem something funny about it.
I'll say. I'm going to turn this stuff over to the FBI.
One look, and I knew this stuff was hot. I didn't know how hot until later. And while my laboratory men were going over the notebook and the other papers taken off the dead man, I had the driver of the cab brought in.
You see, Inspector, there was two of them, and they was talking and not looking, and I slammed on the brakes. But when I was...
Now, what happened to the other man?
Oh, he jumped out of the way. And the next thing I know, I'm out in the street holding this fella's head and screaming for an ambulance. And then the other guy picked up his briefcase.
He's carrying a briefcase?
Yes, sir. And I remember seeing his pal pick it up, see? But later, when I look around for him, he's gone.
Yeah, could you give me a description?
No, sir. Well, except maybe one little thing.
Yeah, what was that?
Well, I was holding this fella, see, like I told you, see? And the other guy was standing there for a second, and I noticed one thing.
Yes?
His shoes.
Shoes?
Yeah, his shoes. A pair of pointed patent leather shoes.
That stuff's come through the lab, Mr. Briggs.
Get anything?
The Spanish letter had a German message written in between the lines, in visible ink, in code.
Cryptanalysis seen it?
Yes, sir. They've broken it down. It says, Herr Christoph, werd dich auf Prozess 97 konzentrieren. That translates, Mr. Christopher will concentrate on Process 97.
Repeat that.
Herr Christoph, Mr. Christopher, will concentrate on Process 97.
Thanks, that's all.
Yes, sir.
Hello? Briggs speaking. Set up a conference with Army and Navy intelligence at once.
Mr. Christopher will concentrate on... This is impossible, Mr. Briggs. No one knows that Process 97 even exists.
I'm afraid the Germans know. How much they know, General, is something we'll have to find out.
You've got to work fast.
I understand.
I'm not so sure you do, Mr. Briggs. Perhaps I should tell you, Process 97 is not just another weapon, not just a new explosive. Its properties, the scientific principles involved, may someday revolutionize life on this planet. Its military application is so devastating that I hope we will never be forced to use it. But until the process is perfected, it must be kept an absolute secret. And for that, we look to the FBI.
We'll do our best, sir.
Have you any other information?
Well, not at this time.
And there must be some lead. Who is this Mr. Christopher?
I wish I knew. I was in a blind alley, and I knew it. But as it happened, at almost that very moment, across the sea in Hamburg, Germany...
You will sail for New York tomorrow, Herr Dietrich, by way of Lisbon.
I'm ready, Herr Strassen.
I have your papers here. Draft card, driver's license, army discharge, social security. No one could tell them from originals.
Pretty neat.
These are your credentials, and here are the messages. Microfilm. They will fit into the back of your watch.
Okay.
Your mission is vital. When you reach New York, you will go immediately to Miss Elsa Gearhart. Through her, you will contact Colonel Hammerson and Adolf Klein. These are the only contacts you will make, Herr Dietrich.
I see.
Now, one thing more. There is one person in the United States who can countermand the orders I have given you. If you ever receive instructions from a Mr. Christopher, abandon everything else and place yourself entirely at his disposal.
I understand. Now, where will I find this Elsa Gerhardt?
She runs a fashionable dress shop in New York. I have the address here. In a house on 92nd Street.
That was all very neat except for one thing. Bill Dietrich happened to be one of our men. An American born to German parents, the Nazis had made him a tempting offer, and apparently he'd agreed to work for them. But before he even sailed from Lisbon, his watch, with the precious microfilm, was exchanged for a duplicate and on its way to us by Atlantic Clipper. And 27 hours later, in our laboratory...
You want this microfilm altered, Mr. Briggs?
Just the last line. See where it says he's forbidden to contact any other agent?
Yes, sir. How do you want it to read?
Authorized to contact all other agents. I smuggled Bill's watch back to him myself as he was coming through customs. And as it turned out, that wasn't any too soon. From the moment he left the pier, he was followed by a pair of pointed, patent leather shoes.
Elsa, you're sure these are his credentials?
Microfilm, like all the others, Max.
I don't like it. All the rest of us are forbidden to contact other agents. Why should he have so much authority?
Why not ask him? I'll call him in.
Ah.
All right, Mr. Dietrich.
Hello?
This is Max Coburg, used to be with the Eisenwachtbund. Max has special duties.
Yes, I know. Gestapo. I know about him.
What do you know?
The usual things.
Yes? Well, what do we know about you?
You've seen my credentials.
Perhaps you'd like to tell us more.
Where did you come from?
Germany.
Where in Germany?
Hamburg, 26 Klockstockstrasse.
Who sent you?
Colonel Felix Strassen.
When did you leave?
3 weeks ago.
When did you arrive?
Look, why do I have to answer all these questions? I showed you my credentials.
Maybe you don't want to tell us when you got here.
Well, Mr. Dietrich?
It isn't that. It's just that
Very well, we'll tell you. You left the pier at 10:50 this morning. You took a cab to the Martinique Hotel, 30th and Broad, checked in, stayed there until 12:30. You took a bus to Times Square, went into the Silver Doll at 46th Street, had a cup of coffee. You left at 1:17, went into the newsreel. You spent an hour in the theater, then you took a cab to 92nd and 5th, got out, and walked the rest of the way over here.
Well, looks like you know all about me.
And we are going to keep on knowing. What's so special about you, Dietrich?
Special?
Why should you be authorized to know all our agents?
Hamburg wants information direct and quickly. I'm to build a shortwave radio set. You'll help me get the parts, of course, and all information will clear through me, and those are orders.
I see.
You're to put me in touch with Hammershon and Adolf Klein. I've got money for them. I'll open an engineering office. They can contact me there. Now, if you'll give me back my credentials.
Oh, goodwill.
Of course.
Thanks. Now, I'll let you know when I've got my office open. See you soon, I hope.
Elsa, I don't like it. He knows too much. I don't care about his credentials.
I'm going to check them, Max. I'm going to ask Hamburg for confirmation.
How?
By mail. To Brazil. That will take a little time, of course. But I'm willing to wait and be sure.
That was the summer of 1941. Bill set up his office right away, a blind for the Nazis, a better blind for us. Through a secret opening in the wall, we took motion pictures of everyone who came in, made recordings of everything they said. In the meantime, Bill got his shortwave set going in a lonely section of New Jersey. And that seemed to satisfy Elsa and Max. But there was one little thing they didn't know.
Well, I've substituted parts for the ones they brought me. The way the set is built now, I can only set about 100 miles.
Well, that's enough to reach our long-range station. We'll pick up whatever messages you send, take out what we think is dangerous, and send the rest on through to Hamburg. And we'll pick up their answers and relay the unimportant stuff to you. What are you grinning at, Bill?
It's quite a gag.
Yes, quite a gag. And it worked. That's how we operated for months, getting our information straight from Berlin. And all the time, Bill was widening his contacts. New people coming to his office constantly to be photographed and recorded. We were building up quite a special file. But still no hint about Process 97. Still no clue to Mr. Christopher. Then all of a sudden, things began to happen. Starting with Sunday, December 7th.
Extra, Japanese attack Pearl Harbor. Extra, Hitler declares war.
The FBI was prepared. We were ready to act.
Your name is Hans Mueller?
Yes.
You're under arrest.
Charles Schlosser?
Yes?
You're wanted by the FBI.
Charles Ludwig Pagel?
Yes.
The FBI wants to talk to you. Come along.
I didn't have Elsa and her pals brought in. I was still hoping for some kind of a break. And as it happens, it came that night.
You want to see me, Elsa? I found your message at my hotel.
Why did you take so long, Dietrich? Where have you been?
Over at the Radio Shack. What's up?
The war. At last. Now we will begin to teach these fools.
Remember, please.
I have an envelope here with some papers in it. You must get it to Hamburg as fast as you can make the transmission.
All right, what is it?
The most important job we have ever undertaken. If we hadn't done anything else in all the years we've been working here, the information in this envelope would be more than worth it. Now, Dietrich, it's up to you.
Don't worry, I'll get it through. Cigarette?
I don't smoke.
My mistake. All right, let's have a look at those papers.
You're to have them back here tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's a tough order. I've got to put them all in code. That takes time.
Orders are not to be questioned.
Why can't I just burn them after I've finished?
Radio messages are often garbled. The starter will also be sent by mail. The order comes from Mr. Christopher.
Christopher?
The envelope was delivered less than 30 minutes ago. I can't impress on you how urgent it is.
You don't have to, Elsa. I think I can guess.
Bill,
What did I think of that?
you're sure she mentioned Christopher?
I'm positive. Could you tell anything from the stuff in the envelope?
Well, they look like scientific formulas. They could be related to Process 97. I'll know better when Dr. Appleton gets here. He's flying up from Washington.
Don't forget, I've got to return those papers by tomorrow.
You know, it's the first lead I've had on Mr. Christopher. He's been so completely non-existent, I can't believe he delivered these papers himself.
I'm pretty positive he didn't.
What makes you so sure?
Well, whoever did deliver those papers was in that room right before I got there. All right, then. Take a look at this.
A cigarette butt.
With lipstick on it. I snitched it out of Elsa's ashtray.
Well, wouldn't you expect it to have lipstick on it?
No, you wouldn't. That's my point. You see, Elsa Gerhardt doesn't smoke.
Betty... I had three things now. The papers Bill had just brought to me, the cigarette butt with the lipstick on it, and still, in the back of my mind, that pair of pointed patent leather shoes. Dr. Appleton arrived from Washington within the hour. For a long time, he studied the papers I handed him. When he looked up, his face was white with shock.
Mr. Briggs, there's no doubt about it. These papers contain data on Process 97.
Accurate?
Appallingly. These are details of experiments we made barely 2 days ago.
We had to work pretty fast. Dr. Appleton stayed with us most of that night, changing some of the figures, just enough to throw the Germans off the track. Then we retyped the whole thing with the same kind of machine that had been used originally, and Bill transmitted it and took the envelope back to Elsa. Dr. Appleton was completely upset.
I don't understand it, Mr. Briggs. Most of the workers and technicians never leave the central laboratory area. We have our own laundry, movies, library, even a drugstore and a soda fountain.
But some workers do leave?
A few, but they undergo the most meticulous examination through a fluoroscope. I even have to go through it myself. Why, these clothes I'm wearing were handed to me by an armed guard.
And still, those doubters got out.
Mr. Briggs, do you have any hope of finding the man who's behind all this?
We'll find him. Hello? Briggs talking. I want motion pictures made of every person who leaves the central laboratory of Process 97. Yeah, that's right. And one thing more. Be sure they don't know they're being photographed. We got those pictures all right. Through an X-ray mirror on the side of a truck parked opposite the entrance. And while that was being done, we went to work on the cigarette butt. To be exact, on the lipstick. Our test showed it to be a certain brand made up specially for 98 different beauty parlors. All employees and clients of those beauty parlors were checked until the search narrowed down to one particular woman. A woman known to be a Nazi agent.
Mr. Briggs, about that Louise Vodya.
Hey, you got anything?
Yes, sir. We've been taking motion pictures of everybody who came to see her.
And?
We've checked them against the pictures we got over at Process 97. One of those workers is a friend of Louise Vodya.
Who?
His name is Roper. We have a picture of him going into her house.
You got anything else?
Yes, sir. We made a search while she was out. The typewriter checks. It's the one on which those formulas were written.
Well, that much adds up. The lipstick girl delivered the data to Elsa. Roper smuggled it out to her.
We still don't know how.
We've got to find out how. We won't bring him in until we do. That's funny. We didn't figure out the answer. We got it from Germany. A message came through for Bill. It said, on orders from Mr. Christopher, Max Coburg will remove GK2. The Christopher part of it was enough to catch my attention. But it was Bill Dietrich who explained the rest.
GK2. That's a familiar word in Hamburg for a very special type of agent.
Yeah?
Yeah, it means memory artist.
A memory artist?
Hamburg was always looking for them. You know, they took a special course to improve their memories even further.
You think it's possible for a man to get those formulas out by memory? Complicated stuff like that?
It seems incredible, but that's what they're trained to do.
Yeah. Well, could be at that. Memory artist, photographic mind, a little bit at a time. Come on, Bill. Let's take a walk.
Where to?
Broadway. To see some vaudeville agents.
Yeah, I used to book that act, mister. A fellow named Roper. That's his picture you got.
Vaudeville, banquets, special parties. Demonstrates amazing feats of memory.
That don't mean nothing. They always write their own billing.
Hey, what kind of feats? What was the angle?
People would call out things from the audience. They ask for stuff from highbrow books. And sometimes he kept 14 games of chess going at the same time. Lousy game.
But 14 games at the same time. That would mean a remarkable memory.
What's the difference? It ain't box office.
I'll take this picture along. You'll get it back.
Don't bother, mister. The act is out of date.
We're ready to move now. We brought the girl in and picked Roper up, too. It wasn't any job to break them down. We had too much evidence. But the one thing I wanted, I still couldn't get.
I tell you, I don't know, Mr. Christopher. I never seen him.
All right, Roper. And how did you deliver the formulas?
I left them at Lang's bookshop on 59th Street. I put them in a book called Spencer's First Principles. Those were my instructions.
When did you make your last delivery?
This morning on my way to work.
And what was it you delivered?
And if there was...
Come on, what was it?
The latest data. Our final experiments.
Come along, Roper. You're under arrest. That meant more secret motion picture work on Lang's bookshop. Every person who came in or out. And finally, we had a clue.
I think we've got something, Mr. Briggs. We got a shot of this man coming out of Lang's bookshop. And we've got the same man on another reel.
Yeah, which one?
Some stuff we shot last week. He was going into the house on 92nd Street.
Did you question Lang?
Yes, sir. He admits it's the fellow who picked up the formulas, but he swears he doesn't know who he is. Shall we bring in Elsa Gerhardt now?
No. No, let's bring in Mr. Christopher.
Max.
What?
Max.
What's the matter, Elsa?
The courier just brought a letter by way of Italy and Brazil. A confirmation on those credentials. Look, see what it says.
He is forbidden to contact any other... Elsa, it says forbidden.
Yes, quite different from the credentials he showed us.
Where is he now?
At the radio shack. Go out and get him, Max. I want to talk to him.
Hello. Hello, that you, Mr. Briggs? Yes, sir, this is Julius. Yes, sir, fella just come and took Mr. Bill away. No, sir, nobody didn't pay no attention to me. I was fixing the fence near the radio shack. Yes, sir, I got a feeling you better hurry.
You'd better talk, Dietrich.
Come on, talk.
Okay.
I can keep this up for hours.
It won't do any good, Max. He'll start talking when the injection starts to work.
What was it you gave him?
Scopolamine. Drugs part of the brain.
My blow, Palm.
Maybe working now. Let me have a try.
Missed our account.
Wake up! Wake up, you! Wake up and talk!
With an appreciation.
Not a chance.
All right.
Forgets.
We can wait. I'll take
Tell
it.
you about that radio.
Yes?
I'd like to talk to Bill Dietrich.
I'm sorry, he's not here.
Listen, we've taken over the ground floor. The house is surrounded.
Surrounded?
FBI. We'll give you exactly 2 minutes. Women come out first. The men will follow, hands above their...
Max, turn off the lights.
What's the matter? What's up?
Something's gone wrong. It's the FBI.
It didn't take too long. Things happened pretty fast after that. Bill was in the room. Perhaps he can tell you better than I can. How about it, Bill?
Well, I don't know. I was sort of fuzzy right then, but... Well, it seemed to me that Elsa turned to Max and spouted a lot of orders at him, and then slammed through the door to the other room. Max started piling papers into the fireplace, you know, the old Dodge burning the evidence. But just then, a gas bomb came through the window. That gave me the chance I was waiting for. I tackled Max. For a while, we were all over the place, and the gas was pretty thick. We were coughing and choking. By that time, you were crashing in the door. I thought if I could just hold on, but I couldn't. I was too weak. He shook me off and reached for his gun. I thought I was a goner for sure, but just then the door to the other room opened. It was awful smoky in there, but we could see a man. Max didn't stop to ask any questions. He started to shoot. Twice, and then again, and whoever it was came stumbling into the room and fell right in front of us. And then all of a sudden, Max dropped his gun and picked the man up, and he held him in his arms, and he just kept saying over and over, Elsa. Well, I guess that's just about all, Mr. Briggs. The next second, you and your men were in the room, and Max was going out with his hands above his head. And you were looking down at Elsa and telling the others that...
I guess Process 97 is safe for a while. There's your Mr. Christopher.
Christopher? That's Elsa Gerhardt, isn't it?
Sure. You must have made a quick change. You'll find her clothes in the other room, Bill.
Yes, but you said it was Christopher.
Don't you see what I see?
Huh?
Frustration.
Look, a pair of pointed patent leather shoes.
And so we seal up the doors of the house on 92nd Street. But before we leave the premises for good, here are Humphrey Bogart and Keefe Brasselle, back on stage for a few final words.
And you, I can promise there'll be very few. You don't have to be an FBI inspector to know what this show means to us in Hollywood. It supports one of our greatest causes, the motion picture country house and hospital. And believe me, all of us are happy to share in that work by appearing here.
Was he catered?
Keefe, am I right?
All the way, Bogey. Well, I guess that wraps it up, so let's run along, huh?
Oh, hit and run, huh? What's your hurry?
Well, Hugh Douglas is waiting to announce next week's show, and besides...
Now, go ahead. Go on.
Well, don't you have to get home and polish that Oscar you won for the African Queen?
That does it. Good night, everybody, and thanks.
Thanks again. Good night.
Next week, a famous Academy Award-winning picture and 2 terrific performances. Yes, it's Warner Brothers' memorable box office hit, Jezebel. And it will star Jane Wyman and Carlton Young. Next week at the same time, Jane Wyman and Carlton Young in Jezebel. Be sure to listen. The House on 92nd Street was presented through the courtesy of 20th Century Fox, whose current release is The Pride of St. Louis, starring Dan Daly and Joanne Drew. Humphrey Bogart can currently be seen in the 20th Century Fox production, Deadline USA. Keefe Brasselle appeared through the courtesy of Warner Brothers, producers of The Lion and the Horse, starring Steve Cochran. Also heard in our cast tonight were Lou Merrill, Bob Sweeney, Frank Nelson, Paul Dubov, Walter Wolf King, Shep Menken, and Herb Vigran. Stars in the Air is transcribed in Hollywood, with music under the supervision of Alexander Courage. Our play was adapted and directed by Harry Cronman. Don't forget, drama fans, every Saturday in the daytime on most of these same stations, you're invited to enjoy Theater of Today, Stars Over Hollywood, Grand Central Station, and City Hospital. 4 outstanding dramatic programs with Broadway and Hollywood stars in the leading roles, with stories specially written for your entertainment. Listen in this Saturday and every Saturday in the daytime hours for Theater of Today, Stars Over Hollywood, Grand Central Station, and City Hospital. On CBS Radio, of course. This is Hugh Douglas speaking.
Welcome back. This is a decent attempt to retell the story of the film, although there's a reminder as to why it's often awkward trying to adapt a 90-minute movie into a 30-minute radio play, as evidenced by Inspector Briggs trying to hand off narration duties to Dietrich to have the conclusion make sense. House on 92nd Street is a very good film. Far better than the somewhat mediocre 6.6 rating on IMDb would indicate. It's a fascinating semi-documentary film with a really solid cast. It also features a few great features such as real FBI footage of Nazi agents entering the surveilled German embassy before Pearl Harbor. Obviously, not something you can bring to radio. It's also got some great suspenseful moments and some really good procedural cues. And getting a chance to see how the FBI operated during the war, and there are even some real-life FBI agents who appear in small roles. In terms of stakes, the film kind of goes the extra mile by making Process 97 a key part of the atomic bomb. This idea is absent here, which may reflect growing anxiety about the atom bomb in 1952, as opposed to October 1945, when the film was released right after the war ended. The radio play is fun for featuring Bogart and doing a decent job of capturing the skeleton of a truly remarkable underrated film. Now, I do want to announce that next Sunday, and for the rest of the year when we're not playing a new special episode, we'll be featuring a Sunday encore presentation from our archives. We do anticipate that 3 new specials will be released before the end of the year, including a Thanksgiving special and our 4,250th episode special. Plus, we will have one other special during this quarter that is based on a holiday that is not celebrated in the United States. And I'll just leave that as a mystery for you amateur detectives in the audience to solve. Now it's time to thank our Patreon supporter of the day. And I want to go ahead and thank Maggie. Maggie has been one of our Patreon supporters since January 2018, currently supporting the program at the Seamus level of $4 or more per month. Thank you so much for your support, Maggie. And that will do it for today. If you're enjoying this podcast, please follow us using your favorite podcast software. We'll be back next Sunday with our first Sunday encore. But join us back here tomorrow for Sam Spade, where...
Ever since he moved into that ark of a house, he's been throwing parties. They're a cross between the last days of Pompeii and a Polish wedding. He invites hundreds of guests, everybody who is anybody.
Disgusting. But it seems legal so far.
He's been there 4 months throwing parties, inviting everybody in the phone book. Everybody but me.
Well, maybe he just doesn't like you.
What are you talking about? I'm one of the best-liked guys in the peninsula. Everybody likes me, little kids, cops, the guys at the country club. I never had an enemy in the world. Besides, I got Virginia.
Oh, who's she?
My wife.
Oh.
One of the sweetest little girls that ever came down the pike.
Well, my apology.
She was a bald one.
Oh.
The year I married her, she was the social catch of the year among the women.
Really?
Yeah. So was I among the men.
Well,
look, I got to tell you some more. A month ago, one of my company warehouses burned down. Somebody slipped up and the fire insurance hadn't been renewed. I lost $350,000.
Mm-hmm.
Guess who had lunch with my insurance man a week before the fire?
Monte Cristo.
You got it.
I hope you'll be with us then. In the meantime, do send your comments to box13@greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives and check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/greatdetectives. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.